Hey, and welcome to another edition of What's Next with Joey McGuire. I'm Robert Giovanetti alongside Joey McGuire. Coach, man, big weekend. I want to talk about that. But before we talk about some of the guys, I'm just curious about you from your perspective of the draft, the NFL draft. I used to really love to watch the draft. I don't watch it as much anymore unless there's a tech guy involved. But is that a big deal for you? Has that always been something as a guy who's about talent acquisition, which you are? Are you interested in that overall?
I watch every second of it. Like I always have. I mean, as long as, you know, they talk about the modern day draft and how and now it's become such a huge deal. They're taking it to different cities.
I do love that.
I think it's incredible that, you know, and dream come true whenever I got to be in the green room with Tyree Wilson and seeing him get the call and hug his mom. But I've always watched it. I think it's fascinating to, you know, because I have my own opinion about different players. You know, everybody's heard my comments about Sanders. I was absolutely shocked that he went as late as he did, but there's reasons, things that I don't know, and a lot of people don't know. People don't understand how much time is put into drafting somebody. I was out doing something for us, and I get a call from the LA Rams, their scout, he's absolutely incredible. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm in Henderson, Texas. I'm about to go talk to Tyree Wilson's principal." And I'm like, that just shows you the amount of prep and investigation of all this stuff that goes into a draft. So I'm fascinated by it. I really have, as long as I can remember, sit in front of the TV whenever the draft is on and then texting my buddies of like, "Man, I can't believe this guy went here. Man, why is it this guy?" Just like this weekend, I get a group text with some of my buddies that we all are questioning. "Man, I can't believe so-and-so took that guy. And hey, that was a great draft pick," and all this stuff.
Interesting. And so Caleb is the first Red Raider to go.
Yeah.
You guys were having an event.
Yeah, that was cool.
When that happened. So that had to be kind of a great moment, right? Kind of serendipity. You got all these guys here and you see Caleb go.
Yeah, it was really cool. Caleb and I are extremely close. In fact, the next morning, because I sent him the video. So one of my good friends, when you're with NFL teams, you know before we know. Like there's like a 5-minute and sometimes longer, depending on the round, of like, hey, this is the next pick. So the guys that are going on the clock they're prepared for their pick and everything. And I got a text, "Hey, Red Raider's about to go." So I'm sitting there looking at, you know, who could it be?
So who texted you that?
I can't tell you that, man.
All right.
I don't want to get them in trouble. And I don't know if they'd get in trouble or not. But it was like, who could it be? And I was sitting there with a recruit and his family and some other people, and I said, it's going to be Caleb Rogers, just based on the teams that were up. Because you can pretty much say, okay, with the Raiders, they took a running back with their number one pick, so they weren't going to take Taj, you know, and then they have one of the best young tight ends in the country, so they probably weren't taking Jalen. So I was like, okay, it's going to be Caleb Rogers. So I've already got my phone ready to go.
So when you get, hey, a Red Raider's about to go, how many picks was that before the Raiders picked?
It was probably about 3 picks before.
Okay, so you were
I was sitting there ready with my phone, you know.
You weren't sure, though, which team was going to take him.
No, I just knew that something was coming up. But the comment the next day, Caleb sent me a text and said, "You're like a proud dad with your camera ready to go. I love you, Coach." You know, and man, it was so cool, because when these guys, all of them, from being drafted to an unrestricted free agent to get invited to the mini camp, I mean, it's a life-changing. It's not just life-changing, but it's also like these guys have dreamed about doing that stuff, and now they have the opportunity to do it.
Does it make a difference to the Raiders that, hey, we got Tyree and we like his makeup and we know what he's about, so that gives even a Red Raider a step up, knowing, hey, we know the kind of program they're coming from?
Yeah, it helps too. One of their main scouts is a good friend of mine that I got to his wife was actually a teacher. He was not with the Raiders at the time. He was with a different team, but his wife was a professor at Baylor. And so I got to know him a little bit. And whenever Caleb went out to do his in-person interview with the Raiders, they went to dinner, and he FaceTimed me with Caleb. So that was, I think he actually told Caleb after they drafted him, and they get off the phone, hey, make sure you call Coach McGuire, because I FaceTimed Caleb, and he was in the midst of, as you heard, he hung up on Pete Carroll.
I heard that.
Yes,
I did hear that.
It's probably not a good thing to do, man, but
he seemed to take it okay.
Pete Carroll's a rock star. I mean, I'm really excited about him taking over the Raiders, that we have guys on that team, because I've had a guy play for him, and a young man that played for me in high school, Josh Thomas, and he said Pete Carroll is just a great coach to play for. And so I'm excited for Caleb.
That's awesome. I've always hated the Raiders, but now they got Tyree, and now they got Caleb, and I like Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
So they're making me hard to root against them now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That seems like a pretty good group there.
It is. And I've changed a lot. When I was growing up, I was a Cowboy fan, and still a Cowboy fan, but like I find myself rooting more for the teams that, have our guys, or have guys that I really respected whenever we played against in college. And so, I watch the NFL, but it's usually not as close.
A guy like you, it almost has to be more about the individuals, right? You got so many guys. Hey, I got a guy in this team. I don't have a guy in that team.
Right.
I hope this team.
And I root for, like, I'm a huge Washington Commanders fan. They've got Tyler Owens, who had a great year last year, but they also have Cliff, who I absolutely love, and now they just added Wes Welker.
Yeah, they got Cliff and Wes.
And so, I root for those teams like that.
So did you get the similar call on Saturday about Taj? Did you know a little bit before Taj was going to go?
Yeah, I did, and that was a cool moment for him, and I was able to talk to him on the phone. I was a little surprised, but this was probably one of the strongest running backs draft classes that I've seen, possibly in the last 10 years. This was a really, really good running back class. So I was a little surprised. But at the end of the day, get on a team, and, I have an opinion. I'm also, I lean one way because I coached the kid, but I also played against some of these guys that were drafted ahead of him. And from my perspective, I would have taken Taj, but he got drafted, he got his name called. That was a really cool moment for his family, and they had a huge party, so that was cool.
It's kind of like being in Vegas. You just need the chip and a chair, right?
No doubt.
And now he's got a shot. He's got a spot on the roster, and see what he does with it. And what we've seen with Taj, he's probably going to take advantage of it.
Oh, Taj is taking advantage of it, and he'll play for a long time.
Again, this is kind of a dumb question because I know yes, but you're a little surprised Conyers didn't get drafted?
Yeah, I was shocked. I really was. He had a great combine. He tested well. I think his film, he played his best football, in his career this last year. And there was, those things, just different, I'm talking to different people and saying, hey, this is a kid, and they're like, well, we have him. I mean, I had a team actually say, man, we should have traded up, talking about Taj, but they didn't think he was going to go yet. Right. So, like, you have a lot of that stuff that goes on. Not sometimes, if you are not going to go probably in the 5th round or above, and maybe you get picked, other than getting your name called that you're drafted, sometimes it's better because actually as an undrafted free agent, you get to pick where you want to go, and you got the opportunity to make a little bit more money if that team really wants you. So, just because he's going to Miami doesn't mean that was his only option. His agent and Jalen probably thought that was the best option, and it's going to be good for him.
And there's been guys who have made it that weren't drafted.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. They didn't. I'm sure there's guys that are in the Hall of Fame that went undrafted. And then one of the late round draft picks, the greatest quarterback that you can say of all time, one's going to beat him, our guy, of all time is Tom Brady. He went in the 6th round.
Yeah. It just seems to be so inexact.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's guys that never get a chance that probably could have played.
Yeah.
But so you did have 5 guys then sign or going somewhere. And again, they got to choose maybe a spot. I thought it was very interesting to see Josh Kelly go to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think that's a really good spot for him too, because it was funny. I saw on social media, it's CeeDee Lamb and the Lamb Chops. It's what they listed as all the other receivers, and CD is one of the best in the league, and then you really do have a lot of guys that are like, how good is that guy? And so I think it's a really good fit for Josh Kelly. I think him getting into camp and really going to work, he's going to have a shot to make the team.
Yeah, I know he didn't finish here, but Tyler Shuck went to the Saints. Surprising to you? And have you talked to Tyler?
Yeah, I was fired up. We've texted a lot. Coach Kitley was there at the draft party. I thought that was great. But I was really happy for him. I'm really happy for Tyler because, there was a lot of conversations after that Ole Miss game about him coming out or coming back, and he had a great year, but he stayed healthy all year long. Nobody could ever question that the kid wasn't a good football player.
Right. He
just had some of the worst luck in the world, 2 collarbones, an ankle, and now he stays healthy all year long and gets drafted. Again, nothing against him, but this was like just the opposite of the running back class. The running back class was extremely strong. The quarterback class, you didn't have near as many. You think about last year, there was 6 guys taken in the first round in that quarterback class. And then this year you had, do we have one? We had 2 maybe. I think it was Jackson Dart and then the Cam Ward, number 1 overall. So you look, if last year's class was this year's class, you're looking at a lot of these quarterbacks. Cam Ward was probably the only quarterback in this year's class that would still be mentioned in the first round.
It's interesting that people were talking a lot about Shadur Sanders. It almost became about him.
Yeah.
But he was the 5th quarterback drafted. I mean, it was, to make your point, it wasn't a very deep quarterback class for whatever reason.
Yeah, it wasn't. And if you're not drafting a starter, it really doesn't matter when you're going to draft a backup quarterback or a guy that's going to come in and compete because, there's no value if you're sitting there saying this guy's not day one, number 1, this guy's going to come in and compete and be our starter. I mean, then you might as well let it go as far down as you can to save money, and
Right.
And there's other needs. I mean, everybody needs a quarterback, but if you don't think he can be your starter right off the bat, there's no reason not to wait and see who you get later in the rounds.
How do those guys handle it mentally? You're talking about a guy like Shadur that at one point people thought might be the number 1 pick, and then he goes in the 5th round. But even like a Conyers that there's so much build-up to the draft. Everyone's talking about it. There's so many mock drafts. You see your name, you've got to be thinking you're going to hear your name called. Do you have to do a reset to say, all right, just like you were saying, I got to take advantage now. I've got an opportunity.
I feel like this is like a T-ball, like you're putting it on. Like, what's this podcast called?
What's next?
That's what you do, man. Like, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be upset all you want, but you just got your name called or you have the opportunity to play in the highest level of football that you've dreamed about all your life, and so I think you have an opportunity. And if you feel sorry for yourself that you didn't hear your name called, but you still have that opportunity, or you feel sorry for yourself where you got your name called, you're going to miss that opportunity. And I remember a long time ago on NFL films, they said the NFL stands for not for long. You're not in this league for long if you cannot get to what's next and come in there and attack what's going on. There's a lot of great players, and I've seen behind the scenes with Garrett being in the NFL for 2 years and just the stories that he would tell me of like, hey, Dad, this guy's more talented, but he doesn't study. He doesn't know the playbook. Same way Sammy Morris. I talked to Sammy Morris, and he's really a great mentor for our guys here of like, man, if you don't understand, if you don't take care of your body, one hamstring can get you cut and then you may never have another chance. And so if you can't get to what's next and go attack this situation, then you're in trouble.
Man, have you ever been in one of those war rooms for a NFL team? It looks like that. I'd be fascinated to sit in those because after every pick, they're almost like they just won a game. They're so happy. They're high-fiving everybody, and then they go sit down and get to work on the next one. But it seems like a cool experience.
Yeah, I think it does. I would love to be a part of it. I have a lot of good friends that are a part of it, so I always talk to those guys.
You got an inside guy.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. And then it's just like, it's funny. It's almost like on signing day, for us. You know, you get a high school kid and he's signed and now he's locked in, and you know, we're high-fiving, the scholarship has come in. It's the same way with those guys, the pick. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then what's really cool that I would like to see is the later rounds, who's standing on the table for who. The early rounds, you pretty much know, hey man, we need to go get and like the Cowboys, you have one of the best guards or offensive linemen in the world retire. You better go get another offensive lineman. And so that's an easy pick. And they got a great one. But then you turn around, those late rounds, like what scout's standing on the table to pick this guy?
Yeah, I think it. You know, we talk a lot about baseball's like that too, right? Scouts come up and they speak up, and hey, I've seen this guy, and I guess it gets like that too. I was thinking, you know, for example, the Chiefs. I don't know if they ever looked at Caleb or anything, but I thought, you know, they're a team that obviously needs some help on the line. So you just never know where it aligns, where you might get picked versus, you know, where somebody is in their draft and what they're looking for.
Yeah, and then you don't know. Well, you know, but like, what did they do in free agency? You know, like that. And so, I wouldn't have been surprised if Kansas City picked Caleb either, because you know they did need O-line help.
Somebody was telling me on our staff that they wished that KC had picked Taj, because he's the kind of back they seem to that kind of strives in their offense.
Yeah, and they need a back, or they needed a back. I don't know who they ended up getting, if they got one, but I was surprised, you know, that if he would have been picked there, I thought that would have been a home run without a doubt.
Tech fans wouldn't have known what to do if you had Patrick and
Taj Brooks. No, team. I don't know. I know. It'd have been awesome.
It had been a collective mind losing here in the 806. You mentioned the portal. Seems like you guys came away pretty unscathed.
Yeah, we're in a good spot. Again, we're still looking at who's in and evaluating how they can help our team. You know, we still would like to get a receiver. And, you know, then we said it after the spring game. It wasn't because the kickers, but we need a combo punter kicker. And so we're right now just evaluating who's in the portal, because the portal is closed. And so now you're really evaluating, like, you know, we've got a couple spots that we feel like we could fill.
You had some leadership Lubbock people down there kicking the other day. Did you see anybody that might have been a potential?
I'm going to tell you, one of my favorite things that we do now on College Game Day is they bring, you know, the student can win $100,000 and everything. And I really don't think people understand how hard it is. You know, you can, and I love specialists, and you know, I have a lot of fun with our kickers and punters and our deep snappers, because those guys can have one play and it could be great and they could be the hero, or they could have one play and like they're the GOAT, like the scapegoat of why. Sure. Really, unless it's the very last play of a game, no other position has that kind of like, here, all eyes on me. And so I look at our kickers and punters and everything a little bit different, and you know, they have their own. We're probably one of the few teams in the country that has a specialist meeting room, that they have their own meeting room, just like the running backs room, just like the offensive line room. And so, going back to the portal question, we'll look for a combo guy.
A lot of it's mental too, right? With a kicker, right? I mean, obviously there's physical skills, but do you look a little bit into their mental makeup to say, hey, can this guy kick in front of 60, 70,000 people with the game on line?
Yeah, no doubt. I want a weirdo. You know, I want a guy that's different. That's they've got to be wired different. You know, and then what's great is we have incredible former athletes that are all in. Lynn Elliott has been great. He did some stuff with Gino whenever, just like mental stuff, talking to Gino when he's here, and I've actually connected, you know, Upton and Lynn to where they could talk through some stuff. That's awesome, yeah. And Stone. But to having a guy like that you know, we've had guys that have done it at the highest level. That's a huge help for our guys.
You know, you mentioned that game day. A lot of Tech fans remember Matt Williams got called out of the crowd to kick a field goal from Lindenwood Apartments, and Mike Leach sees him, and next thing you know, the kid's kicking extra points the next week.
Yeah, it's a great story. You know, and that's a story that's like literally we had that. You know, I think it was 2018. We had a kid that was running the Baylor line one week, and the next week he was kicking off against whoever we were playing. So that stuff happens. I mean, there's guys that, kicked in high school and then, decided not to do it and then can come out and help.
We had a kid last year that wanted to kick for us for the Kick for Vegas. Said he played on the Israeli soccer team. He came out, he booted like a 40-yarder. And I think we never saw him again. I think he just wanted to make it in front of the crowd, and then he left. I don't think he even got his trip or anything. I think he took off and just
maybe he went back home. I don't know.
He could do it to show him the video. What's the next step for you guys as you prepare now for the summer with camps and everything else?
Yeah, so right now for the next month, the position coaches are on the road. They're out recruiting. And then the assistant coaches are in. They're breaking down our first 4 opponents. They're breaking down our spring, all the calls and everything. And so, June is big for us. Whenever we get back, we'll work with our team. We'll have 6 football schools with the team. Our team will lift and run and everything like that. But then when we're not doing that with the team, we're getting ready to talk about Arkansas Pine Bluff. And, we're talking about, the first opponent that we play in the Big 12 where we have to travel to Utah. And so all that stuff, that's why the guys are out recruiting. We're preparing all that stuff. And then we present the first 4 games. Those guys present them to me of like who's who. And, right now you're just tracking who different people are picking up in the portal. So
right.
One team might have finished spring, but then they add people and everything like that. So a lot of guys are doing that too.
Yeah, it's hard to prepare for Texas Tech right now when you got all these new guys that people have never seen before.
Right. And it's kind of, all the way across the board.
All right. Well, again, congratulations to those 7 Red Raiders, right, that are moving on to the NFL, and we wish them all good luck over the next couple weeks. And thank you for your time again today.
No doubt.
See you again next week on What's Next with Joe McGuire. Wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.